Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. This is Ukraine war kind of frontline update specific to Avdiivka. I just want to talk about Avdiivka uh, because the last, 12 hours, 12, 24 hours, 36, 48, 72 last week, but particularly overnight. And very much recently, Avdiivka has come under insane pressure, and in fact, it is not good there. So, just doing some talking to some people. Uh, Third Assault Brigade there has had a really tough time. There's talk about losses in 3 days that are more than Bakhmut, as in really significant. And there's not a lot the Ukrainians can do about it because they have no shells. They've got one HIMARS that's got limited ammunition to help support the troops in there. No artillery to back them up. There isn't just no shells. The Russians apparently are sending fresh troops. They're basically everything they can at this. They are also, and the claim is that they're using artillery more accurately than they've ever done before. I don't know what's going on there, whether they saved up, say, Krasnopol laser guided artillery shells to use in the area, but they're having exceptionally accurate artillery, and they're absolutely flattening it with sort of 40 to 50 of these KAB 500 or carb bombs, and they're using, excuse me, 1,500 kilometer bombs there as well. Sorry, not kilogram bombs. So these are the biggest type of bombs that can take out a number of buildings in one fell swoop. Avdiivka's map here shows the use of the Russian airstrikes here on Avdiivka. That will represent not just, two bombs. These are going to be multiple bombs released. As I say, the word is sort of 40 to 50 bombs released on Avdiivka during each evening. This is incredibly devastating, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So the most you can do really is pull in, considering they don't have F-16s, is pull in a Patriot to the area. But evidently that's too risky, or they don't have the ability to do that in some way. So they're stuck with trying to support the Avdiivka sector with troops, with newly trained troops, like fresh off the training fields, just thrown into here to try and stem the the flow and to try and allow their own troops to escape from being surrounded here. So it's pretty desperate, I think, in Avdiivka. It is pretty horrific, and it comes down to equipment. It comes down to they don't have stuff. They don't have artillery shells. If they had artillery shells, things would be hugely different. If you look around here, what do you see? Drone, 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 and then some destroyed vehicles. Don't know exactly how. But drone, 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 drone. They are using drones to do pretty much as they can at the moment, because that's the only thing they do have in significant quantities. But you can't use drones to defend against a massive wave of attacks. You can't use drones to completely take out advancing infantry groups within an urban environment. You need to be able to hammer the enemy with barrages of artillery, and if you have no shells, like no shells, then this is what happens, and this is terrible. But I don't know that there was any way around this, particularly other than getting out sooner. Now, here is a bit of speculation. We're just talking about this, myself and Pierre and Genya, and I genuinely think this might be a plausible explanation of what's going on with regard to Zaluzhny going. So what is taking place in Avdiivka will probably be blamed on someone like Syrskyi. Syrskyi's only just taken over, and I think he is walking into a poison chalice and probably knew that. He will be blamed for this, but Zaluzhny has been in position for over 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and that which has taken place in Avdiivka effectively happened on his watch, but it didn't, because actually he was switched out just before this latest iteration of what's going on. But that there was no kind of way out here, or the defenses haven't been properly sort of built up. I think they have been now, but that came pretty late. Um, that we are seeing what's going on in Avdiivka being a bit of a hellscape for the Ukrainians. You could very realistically lay that blame at the feet of Zelensky, but he has actually been switched out rather conveniently. So there is talk that this is something that will allow, because he's so popular amongst the population, amongst the troops, this will allow him to remain very popular, to be a potential kind of replacement or political aid or something to Zelensky, uh, and it saves his face in a really um, forward-looking way. I think this is quite clever, potentially, from a very cynical point of view, that actually Zelensky will not get the blame for what is taking place in Avdiivka, and it is not good. Zhenya had, for example, a very restless night uh, because of getting pinged and pinged with like status updates about how bad it's going in Avdiivka. It is not good there, and Syrskyi will undoubtedly get the blame for that. And whatever takes place now will be on his watch, um, as far as many onlookers are concerned. So I think that's an interesting dynamic that you can throw into this as well. But it comes down to equipment. There's no answer at the moment to these jets that are raining all hell on these troops, and it is at the moment about these carb uh, glide bombs that are just wreaking havoc. And of course, also the Russian troops and their use of artillery as well. So really tough there. Um, uh, had there been, huge amounts of uh, ammunition and equipment for the Ukrainians, I don't think you would have seen these advances take place. I think if the Ukrainians had had decent artillery ammunition, I spoke to someone the other day, like I've told you already, that knows two artillerymen in this general area, literally in this area, sort of up here more, but in this general eastern front. And one of them's lost his job and joined a mortar team because there's no shells, and the other one hasn't lost his job, so to speak, and is still, operating artillery, but just is twiddling his thumbs. He's got no shells. That's an anecdote, but it's what's happening up and down the front line. There are just no shells, and when artillery is a god of war for both sides, that is a massive challenge and has huge implications for what happens on the front line. And you're seeing, just look at all of this, the use of Ukrainian Russian drones picking up. You've got Lancets now being used an awful lot, and you've got airstrikes hammering the heck out of Novomykhailivka, Konstantinivka, and beyond. Um, and then you've got aviation striking Avdiivka and Siverny. They're using this as now their main frontline tool, to almost like a form of artillery. These aviation strikes up in Stepover as well. That is what they're using to take out. They obviously have a pretty decent supply of the old bombs that they use, UPMK, these munitions that they use to turn into these glide bombs, the dumb munitions that get transformed, and as a result, they're using them to great effect. This is their new way of doing things. Just it's the same kind of theory: flatten somewhere, move in. But instead of flattening it with artillery, they're flattening it with guided glide bombs, and that seems to be a repeated tactic all across the front lines for the Russians. Just it's not great, and there needs to be an answer to that. The KB FAB bombs, they need the Ukrainians need a solution to that problem. Anyway, it's a bit of a kind of depressing state of affairs as far as what's going on, but it just comes down to, I mean, look at the red dots along Andrew Perpetua's map here. It just comes down uh, to equipment, as far as I'm concerned. Equipment, equipment, equipment.